Tonight, we're dining in an elegant restaurant, Harry declared triumphantly, claiming the reservation I had secured for Dad's celebration, much to the surprise of his in-laws. But a single-father household like yours isn't suited for fancy dining, he added, casting doubt on our ability to fit in. Despite his skepticism, I chose to confront Harry with a dose of reality. Do you realize this is my brother's place? I interjected. I'm Rose, a 27-year-old office worker. My parents split when I was young, and Dad raised me single-handedly. Their divorce stemmed from Dad's workaholic nature, leaving Mom feeling neglected and ultimately reaching her breaking point. Tired of waiting, she finally said, tears streaming down her face, set me free. Dad, burdened with guilt, admitted fault, blaming himself for relying too heavily on her. Despite their split, Dad always prioritized me, never missing a school event or special occasion. He shielded me from insensitive comments about our single-parent household with his unwavering love. After the divorce, Mom married Harry, and I maintained sporadic contact, but her remarriage and new family strained our relationship, leading to an awkward estrangement. Dad, on the other hand, took early retirement to focus on enjoying life. He sacrificed so much for me, and I wanted him to indulge in his passions. Then, 2 years ago, I married Harry, a man introduced by a friend. Dad approved of him wholeheartedly, and his in-laws welcomed me warmly. But when Harry suggested we move into his family home, I hesitated. Both my parents were aging, and the thought of being far from Dad worried me. He reassured me, insisting he was healthy enough to live independently. Call me if anything happens, he urged, relinquishing any guilt I felt about leaving. With his blessing, I reluctantly agreed to move in with Harry's family, knowing Dad would always be just a phone call away. However, just a few weeks after moving in, I began to regret my decision. Harry and his parents, whom I initially thought were kind, drastically changed their behavior towards me. They began treating me like a servant, assigning all the household chores, cooking, laundry, and cleaning, solely to me, while they did nothing. When I asked Harry for help, his response was dismissive. I'm tired from work, housework is a wife's job, right? He retorted. My protests about my own workload fell on deaf ears. You married me, so you should be devoted to me and my parents, Harry would retort. Coming home exhausted from work only to face an endless list of chores was overwhelming. But it wasn't just the chores. Harry's mother, Charlotte, relentlessly tormented me. She purposely spilled food to dirty the floor or complained about the slightest speck of dust. This spot is dirty, you know, she'd order me to clean. After telling me this, she'd leave dirty clothes all over for me to pick up, and after I washed and carefully folded them, she'd kick them apart. Moreover, Charlotte often made disparaging remarks about me being from a single-father household. You can't even do housework properly because you weren't raised in a proper family, she'd say. How pitiful. It's amazing you can hold a job. The company must be blind to hire such a bottom-rung woman. It's your dad's fault for the way he brought you up. Hearing such insults about Dad made me want to lash out, but the worst part was that John, my father-in-law, and Harry did nothing to intervene. While they witnessed Charlotte's treatment of me, far from supporting me, John looked at me scornfully, while Harry joined Charlotte in mocking me. Mom's right, you lack any gratitude towards us. That's why she is cold to you, Harry sneered. A woman from a dysfunctional family like yours would have been left on the shelf if I hadn't married you. You barely have any merits besides working and doing housework, so do them well. Don't even think of asking to share the chores. It's your role as a wife, and making excuses like being tired from work is absolutely unacceptable. I won't allow it, he dictated. When I tried to argue or refuse, Harry's mood turned visibly sour, and he began treating me as if I were invisible. How dare you, as a wife, make a fool of me, he would shout excessively. Then Charlotte chimed in, adding to the stress. Don't stress Harry when he's tired, making things worse for me, she said. Some of the furniture in the in-laws' house was bought with my money. Coerced into purchasing them, I was abruptly taken to an electronics store and forced to buy under public pressure, capitulating to avoid a scene. The harassment didn't end there. Even when I tried to visit my family for Christmas, they obstructed me. "You're our wife now, focus on our preparations. We need a feast and thorough cleaning done. Your dad's all alone, he won't mind," they insisted. When I persisted in going home, they responded childishly, spilling juice on my packed clothes, hiding my shoes, and issuing daily complaints and harassment. Reluctantly, I gave up the idea of going back home, unable to reveal the truth. "The in-laws' house is busy with Christmas preparations, so I'll stay to help." "Sorry, I can't make it back," I told Dad. Dad didn't blame me then. "It can't be helped," he gracefully accepted. "Don't worry about it. It's busier there, with more people. I can manage fine alone, so be it," he comforted me. Harry's ongoing tyranny made me seriously contemplate divorce, but I was troubled about how to tell Dad, who was purely happy about my marriage, without hurting him. In the second year of this tumultuous marriage, Dad turned 60. I secretly made reservations at a renowned fancy restaurant for his celebration, anticipating complaints from Harry and his parents. I simply told them I had to return home briefly. They grumbled, but reluctantly accepted what I promised. It would just be for the day. Upon learning about the reservation, Dad was immensely delighted. "I'm so blessed to have such a wonderful daughter." "Thank you so much." Hearing Dad express gratitude made me incredibly happy. But I never imagined such an incident would unfold as we entered the restaurant and informed the staff of our reservation. We were met with a shocking revelation. "A reservation for two? There are 3 people claiming to be relatives already seated there," the staff informed us. Confused, I went to see the reserved table, only to find Harry and the in-laws seated there. Harry noticed me, sneering with a smug smile. "Too bad you can't outsmart us and dine fancy just by yourselves," he said. The in-laws didn't even look our way, indulging in the feast they had presumably ordered for themselves. Dad, seeing Harry and the in-laws, looked back and forth between us, clearly bewildered. He had only seen the pleasant side of Harry and the in-laws, so his confusion was understandable. Harry, suspecting something from my cheerful demeanor about returning home, had sneakily snooped through my mobile phone. He learned about the 60th birthday celebration at the upscale restaurant and made it their first to preemptively order dishes. Harry began to mock us with a triumphant expression. "People from poor, single-father households like you don't belong in fancy restaurants. Know your place. Let us savor the dishes here. Be grateful we're allowing you this much. You lot should go to some cheap pub." Despite the other customers' annoyed glances at Harry's loud voice, he remained oblivious, soaked in a sense of superiority. Next to Dad, he was dumbfounded by Harry's audacity. I was at my wits' end. I knew Harry and his family were selfish, but I never expected them to stoop to such shameless levels. My anger peaked as they ruined Dad's special 60th celebration. Suppressing my urge until Harry shouted, I calmly delivered a fact to him as he sat there. "This is my brother's place. He invited us here to celebrate Dad's birthday." At my words, the triumphant Harry and the disinterested in-laws froze. My brother, who had been listening to the entire conversation from the back of the restaurant, appeared with an extremely displeased look. He was taken by Mom during the divorce, but, unlike our estranged mom, he has maintained and cherished his relationship with Dad and me. My brother owns the restaurant and was the one who suggested celebrating Dad's 60th birthday here. He hadn't attended the wedding due to work but had seen the photos, so he recognized Harry. Initially, he thought Harry and the in-laws joining at the reserved table were part of celebrating with Dad. Seeing Harry mocking me and Dad, and the in-laws not correcting him, my brother was furious. "How dare you speak to my sister and Dad like that? I regret being considerate just because you're Lily's family. Is this how you always treat her? I prepared this seat for my sister's wish to celebrate Dad, not for people who hijack it just for a free meal. We will celebrate Dad and my sister's occasion on another day. You'll be paying for what you ate. Harry and his party started making excuses, but my brother left them to the staff and took me and Dad outside. I'm sorry for letting such people into the restaurant and ruining the celebration. I'll make it up to you, he apologized to us. On the way home, I explained to Dad all the mistreatment from Harry and the in-laws. After listening silently, Dad said, if you're unhappy in your marriage, there's no point. Don't worry about me. Come back home. So, I didn't return to the in-laws' house but went straight to my own home. Shortly after, my brother called to inform me about Harry and the in-laws. They had caused a scene over the bill but reluctantly paid when threatened with police involvement. Minutes later, Harry called. Where are you? You've embarrassed us. Send the money we paid, he yelled. Then I won't pay a penny. I'm done with you and will be divorcing. I've gathered evidence of the bullying, so be prepared, I firmly replied. I have been collecting evidence of the harassment from Harry and the in-laws, which they never suspected. According to a lawyer I consulted, the forced purchases and other financial exploitations were enough to prove psychological abuse. Realizing I was serious about divorce, Harry panicked. No one but me would marry a woman from a single-father household. Do you want to upset Dad? He threatened. I scoffed. Dad said my happiness matters most. I'd rather be with him than care for the likes of you, I replied. Still, Harry warned, you'll regret this. Think it over, but I hung up and proceeded with the divorce preparations. Eventually, Harry and I divorced. He was reluctant due to societal image but finally gave in as we neared court. I secured substantial evidence of psychological abuse, ensuring I received a fair settlement in the divorce. Additionally, during the property distribution, I took the furniture I had purchased for the in-laws' house, having the legal right as the buyer. The in-laws tried to complain, but my lawyers simply stated, the purchaser naturally has the right of possession, leaving them defeated. A few months after returning to my parents' home, Harry reached out, wanting to reconcile. Apparently, on the day that triggered our divorce at the restaurant, Harry's boss and colleagues were there for a work celebration. They heard everything he said to me and Dad. Harry's boss, who had struggled growing up in a single-parent home, was disappointed in Harry's disparaging remarks about single-father households. Harry lost his standing and any chance of advancement at work. Moreover, his colleagues had spread the story, and he was now regarded with contempt at work. The problems didn't stop at the company. The in-laws' house became chaotic too. After our divorce, Harry and the in-laws had placed all household chores on me, and post-divorce, the in-laws, entrenched in laziness, bickered over who should do the chores. Harry was being pressured by the in-laws to buy new furniture to replace what I took and to contribute more financially. I was wrong, Rose. I took advantage of your kindness too much. I've truly reflected and want to start over. Harry pleaded for reconciliation, but my feelings had cooled significantly. He likely faced more pressure to do chores at the in-laws' house and wanted me back to resume my role as a housekeeper. Perhaps he was also trying to offload some of the financial demands from the in-laws onto me. So, I firmly rejected his proposal. No way. I wouldn't get back with you even if you paid me. I can see you changing back and exploiting me again once we're married. I was foolish not to divorce you sooner without worrying about Dad. Then perhaps Dad's 60th wouldn't have been ruined. We're divorced now, strangers. If you contact me again, I'll consult my lawyer. I hung up the phone. Perhaps my mention of a lawyer resonated, because I received no further reconciliation attempts from Harry. Now, I'm living happily at home. Dad and my brother occasionally visit, bringing gifts. His wife is pregnant, and he seems truly happy. Dad and I are both looking forward to the baby. While I'm not considering marriage anytime soon, if the opportunity arises, I'll be sure to choose more wisely.